Okay, how's it going, everyone? It's been a minute. Actually, in a few weeks' time, it would have been a year since I've done an episode. And to be honest, I was kind of ready just to give the podcast up and just stop doing them. Um, no real reason apart from I think every time I do an episode, I just overthink it, I plan it too much and, you know, try and organize what I'm going to say and things like that. And it just kind of took the fun out of the episodes. Um, and I mean, I can talk for hours about anything, mainly animals, but also anything. And I realize I don't really need to plan what I'm gonna say or anything like that. Not like I did that much anyway with the episodes, but I think I just kind of psyched myself out in case I stuffed anything up or like forgot what I was gonna say, and that actually kind of just made it worse. Kind of just like when you're picturing what you want to say, you're not gonna say it right, and then when you just sit down and talk, that's when you say what you actually mean and what you intend to say. So that's what I'm going to do now. I was looking at the analytics for the podcast and seeing that I'm still getting more followers and listeners now than I was, when I was putting out regular episodes. So people are still listening. People are still asking me for episodes. They're still um, giving me reviews, which is awesome. So I'm just gonna do them. I'm gonna do the podcast. I'm gonna do it every week. I'm gonna actually, you know, put some more time and effort into it because people want it. It's not dying, which is awesome. Um, and as you know, if you've been following my social media or any Kings of Pain stuff, we did another season. We finished filming that in March, and it aired in uh, the United States in, when was it? I want to say July. I can't really remember, but now it's airing, all around the world. It's just airing in the UK now. But what I'll do is I'm not going to talk about Kings of Pain on this episode. I'll probably get Caveman Rob on, and we can both tell you all about it because it was crazy. But this episode is about my most recent jungle adventure. I want to do an episode on it because it's still fresh in my mind. I only got back a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, or maybe longer, but um, yeah, it's still fresh in my mind, and it was such an awesome experience, and I want to tell you all about it because hey, it's Thorn's jungle. It's I've got to have jungle stuff in here, So um, I went to Sumatra, right? I hadn't been to the jungle in a while because of COVID. I was well overdue for a jungle adventure. I mean, if I don't go to the jungle for a while, I feel lost. I watch TV and see a jungle on there, and like my heart just beats. I'm like, I need to get there. And I wanted to do some primate stuff because I'm specializing more in primates now, and primatology. So I really wanted to do a primate based trip. This wasn't for TV, this wasn't for anything. This was just purely me wanting to get back into the jungle and see some cool primates and do some cool primate stuff. And I'd never been to Sumatra before. I've been to lots of other jungles in the world, Bolivia, the Bolivian Amazon, Malaysia, Borneo, India, but never Sumatra. It's in Indonesia, um, but to me, Sumatra just has everything. It has tigers, rhino, elephants, orangutans, bears, tapir. It's insane, all right? And this part of Sumatra that I went to in is West Sumatra. Uh, it's enormous. Like the jungle that I've been to three times now that I love in Malaysia, Peninsula Malaysia. It's 4,500 square kilometers of jungle, which is massive. It is vast. But this jungle I went to in West Sumatra is 14,000 square kilometers. So it is just next level massive, right? And apart from the primate, the siamang, a gibbon, they're the biggest gibbon in the world. Um, I wanted to see siamang pretty much, and I wanted to do siamang surveys and stuff while I was there. I won't get too much into that because it turns out like siamang are very hard to see. You will hear them, and most of the surveys done on siamang are by vocalizations, and they sound like they're right next to you, but they're like a kilometer away. They are so damn loud. But also, I wanted to look into an ape that is said to live in that region. I don't want to say it's like a Bigfoot, because it's not. It's only very small, maybe 3 feet high. But it does walk bipedally, apparently. So it walks like a human. It's been sighted quite a few times, like lots of times actually. And I've always thought out of all the cryptozoological animals that have been witnessed and reported, this one was probably the most likely to exist. Just because Sumatra is so big, so vast, there is definitely room for a large bipedal primate to go undiscovered. I mean, if you look at orangutans that live in Sumatra, they live in northern Sumatra. You have the Sumatran orangutan that lives north of Lake Toba. So you have Pongo abellii, which is the Sumatran orangutan. And then south of Lake Toba, there is a population of orangutan that have they thought were just Pongo abellii, the same species as the Sumatran orangutan. It was a very elusive population of orangutan, and they were only really studied and formally discovered in the 90s. And then in 2015, they did genetic analysis on them and found out they were actually a completely different species, the Tapanuli orangutan, Pongo tapanuliensis. So they knew this population of orangutan lived there, but they didn't actually find them until the 90s, and they had known about them since the 30s. So this is how easy it is for a large species of ape to go unseen and undiscovered, right? And the area that these Tapanuli orangutan live in is like 100 square kilometers. So think about if there is an ape that is even more rare than the Tapanuli orangutan living in an area that's 14,000 square kilometers. Yeah, this thing can go undiscovered very easily. So I went there to look for that as well. I mean, it was a long shot. You can't spend 5 or 6 days in a jungle and find something that people don't see after living 30 years in the jungle. It's just not going to happen. But I wanted to look into it. I wanted to see, what's the story behind this? Is there a possibility that this thing actually exists? So I flew from, man, it was crazy. Sumatra's not that far from Perth, where I live in Western Australia. It ain't that far. Like, if I was to fly direct there, it would take like 6 hours. But because there are no direct flights there, it took me like 2 days to bloody get there. I had to fly from Perth to Bali, Bali to Jakarta, Jakarta to Padang, and then drive 8 hours just to get to the village that is basically closest to the entrance of the jungle. So that was hectic as all hell. I've never had such a bad experience traveling. It was nuts. Or like every single flight I had was delayed, cancelled, or they'd changed airline, had to go to different terminals. It was a nightmare. So by the time I got to the that village, man, I was already burnt out. I was rooted, and I was like, well, I'm already burnt out just from this travel. I've still got like 5 days in this jungle and a lot of like hard walking, you know. But adrenaline kind of kicks in and takes over, and you kind of like get this second wind, and you kind of just forget about it. I'm burnt out, but I've got such an amazing adventure ahead of me. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. So it was me and a guide, because I'd never been to this jungle before. I normally never get guides, but they're jungles I'm familiar with. This jungle's a different story. So I had a guide. His name was In, and he's such a lovely guy, really cool guy. He's been a guide for a long time. Yeah, great dude. So we trek out into the jungle, and it's bizarre, eh? Like we'll just jump in his van, drive about 20 minutes to the entrance of this jungle, and just walk in. And the area where I wanted to search, there's also lots of siamang there as well, so it's actually worked out perfectly. It's a volcano, an extinct volcano that is just surrounded by these jungle mountains. So we had to climb up these mountains through the jungle and then climb down to get to the inside of this extinct volcano, which is now like this massive lake. So just getting to where I wanted to go was a full day's trek, like up a sheer mountainside. It was basically a climb, right? It was nuts. And it's the first jungle I've been to that it's not insanely hot, like boiling hot. It was actually quite mild, humid. So you still sweat, but you're not stupidly hot. In fact, at nighttime it got pretty bloody cold. So we get to the lake after the full day trek. It rains pretty much every day there. At some point it rains, so you get wet, things like that. On that walk alone, I could hear siamang singing. I saw Sumatran surili, which I never thought I would actually see because they're actually pretty rare monkey. They're endangered and they're endemic only to Sumatra. But on that walk, on that trek, I saw two of them. It was awesome. It was amazing. And I was like, well, this is a good omen for primates. If I'm already seeing Sumatran surili, that's bloody awesome. So we set up camp. We're sleeping in tents. Real rustic. First night, my tent's leaking and stuff. And whatever. It's the jungle. Stuff's going to go wrong. But you're exhausted after that hike, so don't do much when we get there. But the following days, it was just get up, go explore, then we'd move camp deeper into the jungle, which was sick. And we got some canoes off some of the fishermen. There's like fishermen that live around that lake, and we got some canoes off them, and one canoe, and canoed to the other side of the lake. This lake's, a few kilometers long. It's massive. Canoe to the other side, camp there in deeper jungle, was searching there. It was just sick. It was awesome. It was as jungle adventure as you could ever get. We're eating these little fish that are like sardines, and they just fry them in oil and eat them whole with rice. They were like the fishiest potato chip you could ever eat. But like I found this frog. It's a pretty rare frog. Ian's been to that jungle a few times and a lot of times, and he's never actually seen one. I couldn't 100% ID it. One time I was digging through a old tree and a grub fell out, like a mealworm. And I gave my phone to Ian to film me because I ate it. Ate this grub. Yep, Ian filmed it. Of course, he didn't press record. It wasn't his fault. He thought that I'd already pressed record, then handed him the phone. But I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna have to find another one and eat it and get it on camera this time. So I'm digging through this tree again. A little scorpion falls out. This tiny little scorpion, and of course it stings me. My fault again. I picked it up and messing around with it, and it stung me. Didn't hurt or nothing, but Ian said he'd never ever seen a scorpion here before. So who knows? Could be a new species. So it was probably a good thing that we weren't recording. Otherwise, we wouldn't have looked for another one and found the scorpion. But yeah, this jungle is immense. It's enormous, and like we're just macheting our way through the whole time. Just there's no one's there. This is primary rainforest as well. Like as archaic rainforest as you can get. It looks prehistoric. Everything's covered in moss. It's just thick and yeah, it's awesome. Bloody awesome. I did some eDNA samples of some of the water there. eDNA is environmental DNA, and it's actually really cool because you can you suck up water into a syringe and then pump it over this filter, and you do that a bunch of times. Any DNA gets stuck in that filter, then it gets analyzed by a lab, and they can tell, they can separate the DNA and see exactly what animals are in that area. So if an animal's walking around on land, it rains, that water gets washed into a creek, stream, river, lake, you name it. So any DNA that has been washed from the land into that water will get picked up in these filters. So you can literally find hundreds of species of animal DNA in these waterways. It's really sick. And I was doing that, basically I wanted to see how can you find DNA from an animal that has never been found? They just wouldn't have that DNA on their metadata bank. But if this thing's a pongid, which is in the subfamily Ponginae, same subfamily as orangutans, maybe it'll come up as orangutan DNA, and we know orangutans don't live in that part of Sumatra. They're way, 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 way further north. So that would suggest that there is a close relative of an orangutan in the area, which would be very, very interesting. But basically, when we move to the furthest part of the lake into the deep jungle, every day we'd hear siamang singing, 3 or 4 different groups of them all surrounding us and calling. It was super loud. It was really cool. Siamang are quite territorial, so that's pretty much them calling to the other group saying, hey, this is my territory, don't come near it. Basically just establishing their boundaries. But it was really, really cool. So we'd just explore the jungle. I was looking for any footprints, obviously looking for siamang, but also looking at the ground for any prints of this undiscovered ape. And it's weird. It's called, what is it, pareidolia? Where humans are very good at recognizing human faces in things. It's faces in the clouds. It's where somebody will take a photo of a forest and they'll be like, that looks like a face in the shadows there. Our brains are very good at forming images of human faces. It's a form of recognition thing. So you can so if you're I was looking for this ape footprint, right? And you start seeing them, right? You start finding them, because your brain wants it to happen. So every animal track I was looking at, I was like, that looks like this ape's footprint. That looks like it. But in actual fact, it isn't. It will be tapir footprints that are overlapping or something like that. So it's hard to pull out of that mindset that, I've got to calm down, take a look at these prints properly, and, start from there. It's Occam's razor. Like, the most probable scenario is probably the correct one. Uh, but I found like three or four sort of ambiguous prints that looked quite like this ape's footprint. And it's quite a distinct looking foot. Like, I mean, you look at a chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan footprint, it pretty much looks like a hand. So their big toe it's like a thumb. It's called a divergent big toe. It's like a grasping toe. And this ape has that. It has a divergent big toe coming out the side of it. And sun bear footprints look very similar, but sun bears don't have that divergent big toe. So you can see a sun bear footprint and you'd be like, oh, that's it, that's this ape's footprint. Then you look at it and you're like, well, I'm not seeing that divergent big toe, so it's probably just a sun bear. And I know a lot of footprints that are cast of this ape have just been sun bear. I have like 5 of them here and I can look at them and go, yeah, that's a sun bear. So, every night we come back to the tent and it's normally getting really cold. It's starting to rain, like this immense fog just rolls in. We'd have dinner and then pretty much at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'm in my tent, Ian's in his tent, and just laying there. I don't have phone service, nothing. I don't want to watch anything on my phone. Like, I don't want to drain the batteries. So it's pretty much you're just left there alone with your own thoughts. And trust me, when you're away from any form of technology or like mobile phone signal or anything, your brain just opens up. And I've talked about this in a previous episode, the solo jungle expedition episode. But it's crazy. I think like the way we live now, the way we think every day it's not how we should be thinking. Like, your brain's just muted. I don't know if it's like, I don't want to get all tinfoil hat here. I don't know if it's like, signals, radio frequencies, things, everything in the air, because we're surrounded so much by like Wi-Fi and things like that, if it's muting our brains somewhat. But when you're away from that, it feels like your brain and your thoughts, feelings, everything is just like released, and it's crazy. Like, I get more homesick when I was alone in the jungle, and this time when I was in the jungle, than I did being away from home for 3 months when I was filming season 2 of Kings of Pain. Because at least like when I was in LA, I could message my loved ones or my friends whenever I wanted. But when you're out in the jungle with nothing, you don't know what's happening at home. You don't know if there's an emergency, someone's had an accident, you just don't know. You're sitting there going, living my life out here in the jungle, and you're just oblivious to whatever's happening at home. And it kind of freaks you out, it does. You start thinking about things that you never would have thought about, like you remember certain things. It's crazy. And I think if people go camping, they'll sort of feel something similar if they're out of phone service or something. But if you're alone, then it's even better, because you are stuck alone with your thoughts. And these days, it's very rare that human beings are alone with their thoughts, away from any social media or anything like that. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But the last... Okay, so we're on the other side of this volcano lake, exploring the jungle over at this back corner. And like, it's... So we were in that jungle searching it before we had to canoe back across the lake, and then we're going to spend another night on the other side of the lake that's closer to where we had to walk back the next day to walk out of the jungle and head home. So we're just having this one last look at this deeper jungle. It's day 4 now, and yeah, we're looking around, And I find this like bird's nest that's fallen to the floor, and it's just pretty much built out of moss. Um, and I'm looking at that and going, oh, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Go to walk off, and bang, I find a just like the most amazing footprint that I've ever seen of an ape. Right? It was like perfect. It had everything. It had the four toes. It had the divergent big toe. You could even see where like dirt had been pushed up from like the pads of its foot and everything like that. And I'm like, it didn't look like other footprints I've seen of this ape. It looked a little bit different. Like its divergent big toe was a lot longer. The footprint was a lot more slender than what I've seen. But if I stepped in some dirt and somebody else stepped in some dirt, our footprints would look remarkably different. You know, a couple of my friends, their feet are like long, skinny, and their toes look like fingers, like, so footprints can vary heaps, right? But this was, without a doubt in my mind, this was an ape footprint, right? And there is no ape. Siamang's feet don't look like that, and they're nowhere near the size. Orangutan footprints don't even look like that, and orangutans don't live in that area of West Sumatra anyway. So what the hell is this? It looked like a bloody chimpanzee footprint, to be honest. Obviously, chimpanzees don't live there either. And it's so typical as well. Like, I had plaster of Paris with me to cast any footprints that I might find, but it was back at our camp. It was in the tent, and it was like a few hours walk to get back if I wanted to get this plaster, and we didn't have time. We had to leave and canoe back across the lake, which takes like a few hours before it got dark. So we didn't have time to go back, get the plaster, come and cast it, which was just so bloody typical. I could not believe it. I was so frustrated at myself. So the best I could do was like get a lot of photos, with my hand next to it for reference, size reference. And because the inside of this footprint was very interesting, you could see like dirt that had been pushed up from the like pads and stuff like that. So I filmed the inside of this footprint like slowly. I got my camera and just filmed all the inside of it and everything like that. And then the weather hit, started pouring down with rain, so I wouldn't have been able to cast it anyway, even if I had the plaster with me, because it was just it turns all muddy and soaking wet. So we get back to camp, pack up camp, start canoeing back across this lake, and this huge bloody thunderstorm hits, like massive. And this lake has now turned into like the ocean, like there's waves and stuff like that. So it made canoeing back really difficult and made it a lot longer than what it should have been. And we weren't going to make it back to where we wanted to camp before it got dark. We just wouldn't have made it. So on the edge of this lake is like these fishermen, and it was just one fisherman actually, and his camp is like, I don't know, like a little room that's made out of tarps, basically. So it's like a tarp shack, basically a tent that's made out of tarps, pretty much. So we were like, okay, asked him if we could set up camp at his camp and stay there the night. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, so we ended up sleeping, sleeping in this tarp thing. I was like shoulder to shoulder with Ian, and there was this huge thunderstorm going on outside. Like, and I remember like all the side of this thing's wide open, so I'm getting like rained on. There's rain falling on me and stuff. And I remember looking up and going, yeah, this is a jungle adventure. Like, this is just so random. And during the night, I hear this insane noise. It wasn't thunder, it was different. It sounded like a bloody plane crashing. It was like, it was nuts. And Ian jumps up and looks out, but it's pitch black. We can't see anything. I'm like, what the hell was that? And like the ground shook. And then next morning, when the sun's up, we go out, and across the lake, you could see like this, because we're surrounded by jungle mountains, right? And across the lake, there was a massive landslide. Like this strip of jungle from the top of the mountain all the way down to the lake had just fallen, just poof. And the trees that, like, it looked like someone with a bulldozer had just cleared this massive strip down this mountain. And then there was just a pile of like skyscraper sized trees at the bottom, right? Like these trees are huge, big old trees, and they just came down. I was like, man, if we were camping there, they would never find our bodies ever. Yeah, it was crazy. And then yeah, we spent another night on the other side of the lake and explored this other area. Didn't find any other prints anywhere near as good as that one I found previously. But at that point, like it was time to leave. I came to that part of Sumatra for primates, to do primate surveys, but to check out this undiscovered ape, right? So I wasn't going to be there for long. If I was to come back looking, I would come back for a long time to look for this thing. You can't just go there for a week and think that you're going to find it. So yeah, we made the big long trek out. On the way out of the jungle, like we had to climb the bloody mountain and then down again, and it was like just been raining, so it was so muddy and so slippery, and it's almost vertical, so like it's sketchy as, right? And then saw more Sumatran Cerilli on the way out. One had a little baby. It was really damn cool. But yeah, it was another day trek out of the jungle. You're going through the jungle to get out of the jungle, mind you. But yeah, on the way home, like, okay, so I spent the night at Ian's place, and then that night I got picked up to get taken to the airport. 8-hour drive on the way home. The bloody driver's fallen asleep, of course. Like the van's coming to a standstill, and I look over and he's like fast asleep, and that happened quite a few times. Finally, I get my flights come. Fly to Jakarta to Bali. Had a night in Bali. That was a fucking nightmare. Like, I get to Bali, I'm like, yes, I'm going to order McDonald's. At this point in time, I'm starving, right? For a week, I've been living off like less than 1,000 calories a day and walking so much. So my body's in starvation mode. I'd lost like 5 kilos. And of course, like the Macca's website, the McDonald's, we call it Macca's in Australia. The McDonald's website's like in Indonesian, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, I can't figure this out. I'm just going to order Uber Eats. Uber Eats wasn't working in that area. And I was like, okay, I'll get room service. Ring up. Yeah, can I get this? Can I get the burger? Can I get the pizza? Can I get this? And they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have it. We don't have any food, pretty much. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, I just want to eat something. And I don't want to go out into the streets looking for food. I was done. I don't want to put my boots back on and go walking around. I'm knackered. I'm done at this moment. I'm starving. I'm exhausted. I just want some bloody food. So I walked down to the restaurant at the hotel. I'm like, look, can you make me this? Can you make me that? Can you make me this? And they're like, okay. So I'm like, finally, got some food on the way. Get back into my room. Like 45 minutes later, the food comes. Oh no, actually, sorry. Before that, I finally figure out the McDonald's website, and I spend like $60 on McDonald's to get delivered to the hotel. And then like half an hour passes and I get a text message saying it's been delivered. So I go down to reception and they're like, no, nothing was delivered. I'm like, are you serious? What's going on? What the hell? So then like 40 minutes later, still nothing. So yeah, I went down to the restaurant and they made me some food and brought it up to me. So I eat like a whole pizza, like chicken club sandwich, fries, and I was still hungry. So I'm like, I'm gonna walk down to like this, little mini mart that's down the road and get some more like snacks, just like some potato chips and stuff. So I go down there, walk down there, get some of them. As I'm coming back into the hotel, the receptionist comes running out with the McDonald's. It was delivered like 2 hours later. It's freezing cold. So I'm like, are you serious? So I get up to the room with it and it's like 4 burgers, like 3 large fries, and I ate them as well. Like, I ate like 10,000 calories within like a couple of hours. And then the next day I smashed a bunch of cocktails, got my flight home, back to Perth. And I figured out as I was like, so days had passed and I'm like kicking myself that I didn't get to cast this footprint. And I was finding out like researching if they can make 3D models out of like photographs. They can't really get 3D models out of like a 2D photo, but they can with a video. And luckily, I got that really good detailed video of the footprint, and then I turned it into a full 3D model. Basically, it cuts it up into like 1,000 photos and then uses that. So I got this really good 3D image of this footprint, and it looked awesome. And I got some dude on Facebook Marketplace to 3D print it for me, and I've got this full-sized cast. Not a cast, it's more of a mold because it's inverted. It's not like exverted, whatever the fuck it is. Like like an actual casted footprint that you would with plaster. But I've got how it looked in real life, full like molded. It looks sick. It turned out really well. So I've got a really good image and physical 3D mold of this footprint that I found, and looking at other footprints of this ape, like, mine's the best. It's better than all the other ones. Like, I don't want to talk myself up, but it's a bloody good one. So yeah, that it actually worked out well. I still wish I casted it, but when you cast stuff with plaster, you destroy the print. So, with this one, you can see way more detail than you can in a plaster cast. So it was really cool. Worked out well. But yeah, that was pretty much it. That was my primate adventure, and also cryptozoological expedition. It was good. Oh yeah, and also, sorry, while we were in that village near the jungle, I interviewed one of In's friends who's a farmer that's seen one of these apes, and he gave me really good detail about it. He got a really good look at this thing as well. So, do I believe it's there? Yeah, I believe it exists. I believe it is an insanely rare ape that is very close to extinction. But I'll probably go back. I'll probably go back with a bunch of camera traps, trail cams, set them up for months, and just do a more intricate search for this thing. I've been wanting to look for this thing for years. I've been almost obsessed with this ape, and yeah, I'm glad I managed to go over there and find some form of evidence, even though I wasn't there super long. I still found a really good print, so I'm so happy with that. And yeah, I will be back. I will find that ape. I'll find that stinking ape. Yeah, I will be back. Yeah, so regarding the podcast, guys, tune in every week, hey, because I will be doing it every week now. I know I've said it in the past, and it hasn't happened, but yeah, I really want to have a good crack at this, get this podcast going good, considering still getting like, a few thousand subscribers each month, even though I haven't put an episode out in like nearly a year. But that's a good sign. People are still tuning in and listening to the older episodes. So yeah, thanks for sticking with me and being patient with this. But yeah, stay tuned for more because there will be. Thanks everyone. Have a great week. See yous.